The champagne glass shattered. Not dropped. Not slipped. Thrown. It hit the obsidian table in the center of the boardroom and exploded into 1,000 glittering pieces that caught the morning light pouring through floor-to-ceiling windows 47 stories above Manhattan. 12 executives froze. The live stream cameras kept rolling. Carol Banton didn't flinch. She stood across from the woman who had just refused to shake her hand, her expression calm as lake water before a storm. Her black blazer was simple. No Rolex. No diamond earrings. Nothing that screamed money. Just her. Present. Still. Watching. Elspira Vaughn smiled like a wolf who just cornered prey. "We don't shake hands with people like you," she said again, louder this time, making sure every microphone in the room caught it. Her silk blouse shimmered under the lights. Her platinum watch glinted. She leaned back in her chair like a queen on a throne made of other people's fear. The room held its breath. Carol lowered her hands slowly. No anger in her eyes. No shock. Just that same unsettling calm. "Understood," she said. Someone coughed. A phone buzzed. The live stream chat exploded with comments scrolling faster than anyone could read them. "Hi friend, before we continue the story, kindly tell us where are you watching from? And hit that subscribe button now for you to get more, and I have something new for you tomorrow. Stay tuned. Thanks. Let's continue." Elspira turned to the screen behind her where numbers glowed in cold blue light. $2.4 billion. The merger total. She tapped the screen with one manicured nail. "This deal requires liquidity," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "Virex Dominion will contribute assets. Monroe Atlas will contribute capital." She paused, looking at Carol like she was examining something stuck to her shoe. "Or whatever you people call it." A few nervous laughs rippled through the room. Carol said nothing. But her left hand moved. Just slightly. Her thumb brushed against her index finger. Once. Twice. A signal. Somewhere in a trading desk in Lower Manhattan, someone saw it on the live stream. Somewhere in a law office in Boston, a lawyer opened a file marked Clause 8.3. Somewhere in Singapore, a fund manager began typing withdrawal codes. Elspira didn't notice any of it. She was too busy enjoying the moment. Too busy savoring the way everyone watched her crush this nobody from some small firm no one had ever heard of. This was what she lived for. The power. The dominance. The way people looked at her like she was untouchable. She had no idea she'd just lit a fuse connected to a bomb she couldn't see. Carol folded her hands on the table. Her voice came out soft. Almost gentle. "Chairwoman Vaughn, you may want to review your contract. Section 8. Clause 3. Elspira's smile widened. "This isn't law school, sweetheart." "No," Carol said. "It's a live-streamed corporate negotiation with documented discriminatory conduct. Which means every anchor fund in this deal just gained the legal right to withdraw capital without penalty." The room went silent. One executive's face went pale. Another reached for their phone. Elspira laughed. A sharp, brittle sound. "You're bluffing." Carol stood. She smoothed her blazer. Picked up her folder. And looked Elspira directly in the eyes for the first time since she'd walked into that room. "By morning," she said quietly, "you'll know I'm not." She turned and walked toward the door. Behind her, the first phone started buzzing. Then another. Then another. And Elspira Vaughn, queen of Virex Dominion, billionaire destroyer of careers, woman who had never lost a deal in her life, felt something she hadn't felt in 20 years. Fear. What do you think Carol knows that Elspira doesn't? Drop your guess in the comments. Carol's heels clicked against marble as she walked down the hallway outside the boardroom. Behind her, voices rose. Frantic. Confused. She didn't look back. The elevator doors opened and she stepped inside. Alone. The door slid shut and the noise disappeared. She exhaled. Her reflection stared back at her from the polished steel walls. Simple suit. Hair pulled back. No makeup except a touch of lip gloss. She looked like an associate. A junior partner. Someone you'd walk past without a second glance. That was the point. She'd learned it young, growing up in Roxbury, outside Boston. Her mother cleaned offices in buildings like this one. Towers made of glass and steel and money. Carell used to wait in lobbies after school, doing homework on cracked vinyl chairs while her mother emptied trash cans and scrubbed toilets for people who never looked at her face. She learned something important in those lobbies. Rich people only fear what they can't predict. And they never predict the quiet ones. The elevator descended. 47 floors. She counted them. Her heart rate stayed steady. Her breathing even. She'd practiced this for years. Trained herself to stay calm when everything around her burned. Monroe Atlas wasn't what it looked like. On paper, it was a modest black-owned investment firm managing maybe $300 million in assets. Respectable but forgettable. The kind of company that gets invited to diversity panels and roundtable discussions but never to the real tables where actual power sits. Except that was a shell. Underneath Monroe Atlas were 12 other entities. Blind trusts in Singapore. Holding companies in Delaware. Liquidity channels in Zurich and Toronto. Together, they controlled just over $23 billion in leveraged capital. And a significant portion of that capital was buried inside Virex Dominion itself. Carell didn't just invest in companies. She owned the bones of them. The elevator reached the lobby. The doors opened. She stepped out into a cathedral of marble and light. People rushed past her. Suits and briefcases and coffee cups. No one looked at her twice. Her phone buzzed. A text from her lead attorney in Boston. Asterisk clause triggered. Withdrawals initiated. Estimate $400 million outflow in the next 20 minutes, asterisk. She typed back one word. Good. She slipped the phone into her pocket and walked toward the revolving doors. Outside, the city roared. Yellow cabs. Horns. Steam rising from subway vents. The late morning sun made the glass towers glow like they were on fire. She'd been in New York for 3 days preparing for this meeting. She'd stayed in a budget hotel in Brooklyn. She'd taken the subway. She'd eaten bodega sandwiches. Because wolves don't hunt what they don't notice. Her mother used to say that. Before she died. Before Carell went to community college on scholarships and then Harvard Law on spite. Before she built Monroe Atlas from nothing but student loans and rage and a promise to never be invisible again unless she chose to be. Another text. Asterisk 6 more funds flagged the live stream. Legal teams reviewing now, asterisk. Carell smiled. She'd watched Elspira Vaughn for 2 years. Studied her. Read every interview. Every profile. Every leaked email. Elspira was predictable. She always humiliated people in public. Always made a show of it. It fed something in her. Some need to prove she was untouchable. Carell had counted on that. She'd walked into that boardroom knowing exactly what would happen. The handshake refusal. The insult. The cameras. All of it. She reached the street corner and waited for the light to change. A homeless man sat against the building with a cardboard sign. She reached into her purse and handed him a 20. He looked up, surprised. God bless, he said. You too, she said. The light changed. She crossed. Behind her, somewhere in that glass tower, Elspira Vaughn's empire had started to crack. And the woman everyone thought was nobody was the one holding the hammer. Do you think Carell planned this from the beginning, or did Elspira just make a fatal mistake? Comment below. Elspira Vaughn didn't panic. She never panicked. Panic was for weak people. For people who hadn't clawed their way up from nothing. For people who didn't understand that power wasn't given. It was taken. And once you took it, you crushed anyone who tried to take it back. She stood at the head of the boardroom table, hands flat against the obsidian surface, staring at the 12 executives who were all suddenly very interested in their phones. "Someone explain," she said. Her voice was ice. No one answered. She slammed her palm against the table. "Now." Her CFO, a pale man named Marcus with sweat gathering at his temples, cleared his throat. "There's been a withdrawal. From one of the anchor funds. 400 million. Which fund?" "Crescent Equity." Elspira frowned. "They can't withdraw. The merger agreement locks them in." Marcus swallowed. "Apparently there's a clause. 8.3. It allows withdrawal if any party engages in discriminatory conduct during a documented negotiation." The room went silent. Elspira's jaw tightened. "That's absurd." "It's also legally binding," Marcus said quietly. "And the live stream caught everything. Your words. The handshake. It's already trending on financial Twitter." Elspira's hands curled into fists. She turned to the windows, staring out at the city below. Manhattan stretched out like a game board. She'd always seen it that way. Buildings were pieces. People were pawns. And she was the player who never lost. She'd built Virex Dominion from the ground up. Started as a junior analyst at a hedge fund in her 20s. Worked 100-hour weeks. Slept in her office. Learned how to read balance sheets like poetry and crush competitors like insects. By 35, she had her own fund. By 40, she was managing 8 billion. By 45, she was untouchable. Or so she thought. She'd humiliated dozens of people on her way up. Men who underestimated her. Women who tried to compete with her. She remembered their faces. The way they looked when she destroyed them. The satisfaction of watching them realize they'd lost. It never got old. But this was different. This wasn't some junior analyst or struggling startup founder. This was a coordinated strike. Legal. Surgical. And it had her fingerprints all over it because she'd been the one stupid enough to do it on camera. Her phone buzzed. A call from her head of legal. She answered. "Fix this." "I can't," the voice on the other end said. "The clause is ironclad. And it's not just Crescent. 3 more funds are reviewing their positions. If they pull out." "How much?" Elspira interrupted. A pause. "Worst case. 2 billion. Maybe more." Elspira's vision tunneled. 2 billion. That was enough to crater the merger. Enough to trigger margin calls. Enough to make Virex look weak. And in her world, looking weak was the same as being dead. She hung up. Turned back to the room. "Find her," she said. "Who?" Marcus asked. "Carell Banton. Find out everything. Where she banks. Who she knows. What she eats for breakfast. I want leverage and I want it now." One of the younger analysts, a woman named Jessica, raised her hand slightly. "Ma'am, with all due respect, maybe we should." "Maybe you should what?" Elspira snapped. "Apologize? Roll over? Let some nobody from a no-name firm destroy everything I've built because I didn't shake her hand?" Jessica went quiet. Elspira walked to the window and pressed her forehead against the cool glass. Below, the city hummed. Oblivious. She'd spent her entire life proving she was better than everyone else. Smarter. Tougher. More ruthless. She'd crushed men twice her size. She'd outlasted recessions and hostile takeovers and boardroom coups. And now some quiet woman in a cheap suit was taking her apart piece by piece. It didn't make sense. Monroe Atlas was nothing. A blip. A diversity hire of a company that existed to check boxes and make white liberals feel good about themselves. Except Carell had known about Clause 8.3. Which meant she'd read the contract. Which meant she'd planned this. Elspira's blood went cold. She turned back to the room. Get me everything on Monroe Atlas. Every filing. Every investor. Every shell company. I want to know who's funding her. Yes, ma'am, Marcus said. But his hands were shaking. And somewhere deep in Elspira's chest, beneath the rage and the pride and the certainty that she always won, a small voice whispered something she'd never let herself believe before. What if you're not the smartest person in the room? Is Elspira finally realizing she's in over her head? What do you think happens next? The contract was 372 pages long. Most people never read past page 50. Elspira's legal team had skimmed it. Highlighted the important parts. The money. The timelines. The liability waivers. Standard merger language that looked the same in every deal. They missed page 214. Section 8. Clause 3. It was buried between tax provisions and indemnity language. Boring. Technical. The kind of thing lawyers gloss over because it looks like boilerplate. Except it wasn't. Carell had written it herself. She'd done it 6 months ago, working with a law firm in Boston that specialized in contract arbitrage. They'd drafted the language carefully. Made it look standard. Made it blend in. Then they'd slipped it into the merger agreement during the third round of revisions when Elspira's team was exhausted and rushing to close. No one noticed. No one ever does. The clause was simple. If any party to the agreement engaged in discriminatory conduct during a documented negotiation, all partner funds retained the right to immediately withdraw capital without penalty or advance notice. Documented meant recorded. Discriminatory meant exactly what it sounded like. And Carell had known, with absolute certainty, that Elspira Vaughn would take the bait. Because powerful people always do. They can't help themselves. Carell sat in a coffee shop in Brooklyn, 3 blocks from her hotel. Small place. Cracked tile floors. Mismatched chairs. The kind of spot where freelancers nursed lattes for 4 hours and pretended to work. She liked it. It was quiet. Anonymous. Her laptop was open in front of her. 3 screens worth of data. Withdrawal confirmations. Fund movements. Legal filings. Everything happening in real time. 400 million gone. Another 600 in motion. By end of day, it would be over $1 billion. Her phone buzzed. A call from her CFO, a man named Darius who ran the day-to-day operations of Monroe Atlas from an office in Seattle. It's working, he said. I know, Carell said. Crescent pulled out. Titan Equity is reviewing. Vanguard sent a formal inquiry. Good. Carell. Darius paused. You sure about this? If Elspira finds out who you really are. She won't, Carell said. Because she's not looking. She thinks I'm small. Irrelevant. A charity case who got lucky. And when she realizes you're not. Carell smiled. By then it'll be too late. She hung up and took a sip of her coffee. It was terrible. Burnt. Bitter. She drank it anyway. The live stream had been the key. Elspira loved attention. Loved being seen. She always insisted on cameras at her big meetings. Press. Publicity. She wanted the world to watch her win. Carell had counted on that too. She'd made sure the merger summit was live-streamed to financial networks. Bloomberg. CNBC. Reuters. Every hedge fund desk from New York to Singapore was watching. And when Elspira refused that handshake, when she said those words, every single viewer saw it. More importantly, every algorithm saw it. Keywords flagged. Compliance software triggered. Legal teams auto-notified. Within minutes, a dozen funds had been alerted to potential contract violations. Their systems didn't care about intent. Didn't care about context. They just followed protocol. And protocol said, discriminatory conduct equals withdrawal rights activated. Carell had turned Elspira's arrogance into a weapon. And now that weapon was firing. Her laptop pinged. Another email. This one from a fund manager in Miami. Asterisk, we're pulling $800 million. Legal confirmed the clause. Thanks for the heads up, asterisk. Carell hadn't given anyone a heads up. She didn't need to. The contract did the work for her. That was the beauty of it. She wasn't attacking Elspira. She wasn't filing lawsuits or leaking scandals or staging hostile takeovers. She was just letting the system do what it was designed to do. Protect investors from liability. And right now, Elspira Vaughn was a liability. Carell closed her laptop and stood. Outside, the afternoon sun slanted through the Brooklyn streets. People walked past. Delivery trucks rumbled by. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. She thought about her mother. Thought about those nights sitting in lobbies, watching rich people walk past like she didn't exist. Thought about the way they looked through her. Not at her. Through her. Like she was furniture. Carell had spent her whole life being underestimated. Being dismissed. Being told she didn't belong in rooms where decisions got made. So she'd learned to build those rooms herself. And now, one of the most powerful women on Wall Street was trapped inside a room Carell had designed. A room with no exits. What do you think Elspira will do when she finds out the truth? Drop your prediction below. The first crack appeared at 11:04 a.m. Elspira was on the phone with her head of investor relations, a woman named Sharon who had worked with her for 12 years. Sharon never panicked. She'd survived the 2008 crash. The European debt crisis. The COVID market meltdown. She was unshakable. Her voice was shaking now. Elspira, we have a problem. I know about Crescent, Elspira said. We'll manage it. It's not just Crescent. Sharon's breath hitched. Titan Equity just filed withdrawal paperwork. So did Vanguard. And I'm getting calls from 6 other funds asking about Clause 8.3. Elspira's hand tightened around the phone. How much? If they all pull. Just under $2 billion. The room tilted. Elspira sat down hard in her chair. $2 billion. That was more than a hit. That was a catastrophe. The merger needed that capital. Without it, Virex couldn't complete the acquisition. And if the acquisition failed, their stock would crater. Margin calls would trigger. Credit lines would freeze. Stop them, Elspira said. I can't. The clause is binding. Legal reviewed it. As long as there's documented discriminatory conduct, they have the right. Then make the documentation go away. Elspira. Sharon's voice went quiet. It's already everywhere. Twitter. LinkedIn. Financial news sites. Someone even made a TikTok. You can't make this disappear. Elspira hung up. She stood and walked to the window. Below, Manhattan looked the same as it always did. Busy. Indifferent. A machine that ground up the weak and spit out the strong. She'd always been strong. Always. Her phone buzzed again. A text from Marcus. Asterisk board meeting called for 3 p.m. They want answers, asterisk. Of course they did. The board. A collection of old money and older grudges. Men who'd never liked her. Never trusted her. Never believed a woman could run a firm like Virex. They'd tolerated her because she made them rich. But the second she looked weak, they'd circle like sharks. Another text. This one from her PR team. Asterisk press is asking for comment. What do we say, asterisk? Elspira didn't answer. She opened her laptop and pulled up Monroe Atlas. Their website was basic. Generic stock photos. Bland mission statement about inclusive investing and community empowerment. It looked like a non-profit, not a financial firm. She clicked through to their team page. Carell Banton. Founder and CEO. The photo was professional but unremarkable. Carell in a navy suit, neutral smile, plain background. No flash. No ego. Just competence. Elspira stared at the photo. Who are you? She ran a search. Found a few articles. A profile in a black business magazine. A panel discussion at a Harvard conference. Nothing special. Nothing that suggested power. But power didn't always announce itself. Elspira knew that. She'd built her career on being underestimated. On walking into rooms full of men who thought she was just another pretty face, then dismantling them piece by piece. And now someone was doing the same thing to her. Her phone rang. A number she didn't recognize. She answered. Yes. Chairwoman Vaughn. The voice was male. Calm. My name is Darius Kent. I'm the CFO of Monroe Atlas. Ms. Banton asked me to reach out. Elspira's jaw clenched. Did she? She wanted to make sure you understood the situation. The withdrawals aren't personal. They're contractual. Funds are simply exercising their legal rights. Legal rights she engineered. Ms. Banton didn't engineer anything, Darius said smoothly. She just read the contract. Which, if I may say, is something your team should have done more carefully. Elspira's hand tightened around the phone. Tell your boss I want a meeting. Today. I'm afraid that's not possible. Ms. Banton is unavailable. Make her available. With respect, Chairwoman Vaughn, you're not in a position to make demands. The line went dead. Elspira stared at the phone. Then she threw it across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. No one in the boardroom said a word. Outside, the sun climbed higher. The city kept moving. And somewhere in Brooklyn, in a coffee shop with cracked tiles and burnt coffee, Carell Banton checked her watch. Right on schedule. Do you think Elspira can still turn this around, or is it already over? Let us know what you think. The phones wouldn't stop buzzing. Every executive at the table stared at their screens like they were watching a car crash in slow motion. Elspira stood frozen at the window, her reflection ghost pale against the glass. Marcus spoke first, his voice barely above a whisper. It's accelerating. What is? Elspira didn't turn around. The withdrawals. 900 million now. And counting. The number hung in the air like smoke. Elspira turned slowly. Her face was perfectly composed. No cracks. No fear. Just the cold mask she'd worn for 20 years in boardrooms full of men who wanted to see her break. How many funds total? Marcus scrolled through his phone. 7 confirmed. For more under legal review. If they all execute. Don't say it, Elspira snapped. But everyone in the room was already doing the math. 11 funds. Average withdrawal of 200 million each. That was over $2 billion. The exact amount needed to anchor the merger. Without it, Virex couldn't close the acquisition. The stock would nosedive. Investors would panic. Competitors would smell blood. Jessica, the young analyst, raised her hand slightly. Should we issue a statement? Try to calm the markets? And say what? Elspira's voice was ice. That we're being destroyed by a clause no one read because I refused to shake someone's hand. No one answered. A new text appeared on Marcus's phone. His face went gray. Goldman Sachs just suspended our credit line pending review. The room went silent. Credit lines were oxygen. Without them, daily operations choked. Payroll delayed. Contracts frozen. The whole machine ground to a halt. Elspira's hands curled into fists at her sides. She'd spent her entire life building Virex. Clawed her way up from a studio apartment in Queens where she'd eaten ramen for dinner and worked 3 jobs to pay for business school. She'd sacrificed relationships. Sleep. Her 20s and 30s. Everything. And now it was crumbling because she'd been too arrogant to shake a woman's hand. Her assistant burst through the door, breathless. The board wants you downstairs. Now. Tell them I'm busy. They said it's not a request. Elspira grabbed her phone off the table. Checked the time. 11:47 a.m. less than an hour since the first withdrawal. The speed of it was terrifying. In the old days, financial collapse took weeks. Months. There were warning signs. Time to pivot. Not anymore. Now the algorithms moved faster than human thought. One trigger and the whole system cascaded. Money fled at the speed of fiber optic cables. Billions vanished in minutes. She walked to the elevator, her heels sharp against marble. The doors opened. She stepped inside alone. As the elevator descended, she pulled out her phone and opened Twitter. The hashtag was already trending. Hashtag Virex collapse. Videos of the handshake refusal. Screenshots of the withdrawal notices. Memes. Hot takes. Financial analysts calling it the fastest self-destruction they'd ever seen. One tweet had 40,000 likes. Asterisk, respect is cheaper than recovery. Kirel Banton asterisk. Elspira's jaw clenched. The elevator doors opened on the executive floor. The boardroom was at the end of a long hallway lined with portraits of former chairmen. All men. All white. All dead. She walked past them without looking. Inside, 8 board members sat around a mahogany table that had been there since 1987. Old money. Old power. Old grudges. At the head sat Richard Caldwell, 73, former Goldman partner, current pain in Elspira's side. He didn't stand when she entered. Sit down, Elspira. She remained standing. I'm handling it. You're hemorrhaging capital, Richard said. 900 million and counting. Credit lines suspended. Stock down 12% in pre-market. You call that handling it? It's a temporary fluctuation. Richard laughed. A dry, bitter sound. Temporary. The woman you insulted just triggered the largest single-day withdrawal in Virex history and you think it's temporary? Elspira leaned forward, palms flat on the table. She engineered this. Planted that clause. Waited for me to. To what? Richard interrupted. To be yourself. To treat someone like garbage on a live stream watched by every fund manager from here to Hong Kong. The room went quiet. We want your resignation, Richard said. Effective immediately. Elspira's vision tunneled. No. It's not a negotiation. You can't remove me. I built this company. And you just destroyed it, Richard said. In 1 hour. With one insult. That's got to be some kind of record. Elspira's hands shook. She pressed them harder against the table to make it stop. I need 48 hours, she said. You don't have 48 hours. You don't have 48 minutes. The stock opens in 13 minutes and when it does, we're going to get slaughtered. Another board member, a woman named Patricia, spoke up. Elspira, if you step down now, we can spin this. Make it look like accountability. Damage control. I don't do damage control, Elspira said. I win. Not this time, Richard said. The opening bell rang somewhere in the distance. A sound Elspira had heard 10,000 times. Usually it meant opportunity. Money. Power. Today it sounded like a funeral toll. Can Elspira save herself, or is this the end of her empire? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Carell's phone lit up with notifications. She was still in the coffee shop, still nursing that terrible burnt coffee, watching the numbers scroll across her laptop screen like a slot machine paying out. 900 million. 1.1 billion. 1.3. The withdrawals were cascading exactly as she'd predicted. Once the first few funds moved, the others followed. Not because they wanted to. Because they had to. Risk management protocols. Automated compliance systems. The machines did the thinking now. And machines didn't care about feelings. Her phone buzzed. A call from Darius. It's working, he said again. He sounded almost giddy. Don't celebrate yet, Carell said. Why not? We're watching a billionaire lose everything in real time. Because cornered animals are dangerous. She hung up and pulled up the live stream. Someone had archived it. The whole meeting. Every angle. The handshake refusal was being replayed on loop across financial networks. Her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Asterisk we need to talk. E.V. asterisk. Elspira. Carell stared at the message. She'd expected this. The desperate outreach. The attempt to negotiate. The belief that everything could be fixed with the right conversation. But some things couldn't be fixed. Some things were designed to break. She typed back one word. No. 3 dots appeared. Elspira was typing. The dots disappeared. Then reappeared. Then stopped. No response came. Carell closed her laptop and stood. The coffee shop was filling up with the lunch crowd. Students. Freelancers. People living normal lives where the worst thing that happened today was a delayed subway or a rude email. She walked outside into the Brooklyn afternoon. The sun was bright. Almost cheerful. It felt wrong somehow. Like the weather should match the destruction happening 47 floors above Manhattan. Her phone rang. Not Darius this time. A number with a 617 area code. Boston. She answered. Hello. Ms. Banton. The voice was female. Professional. My name is Patricia Chen. I'm on the board of Virex Dominion. Carell kept walking. I know who you are. Then you know we're in a difficult position. You're in the position you chose. Patricia paused. Ms. Banton, I want to be clear. What Elspira did was unacceptable. The board doesn't condone it. But we have 8,000 employees who did nothing wrong. Pension funds. Retail investors. People who will lose everything if Virex collapses. They should have hired better leadership. We're prepared to remove Elspira. Effective immediately. Full public apology. Whatever you need. Carell stopped walking. Across the street, a mother pushed a stroller. A dog barked. Life continued, oblivious. This isn't about apologies, Carell said. Then what is it about? Consequences. Patricia's voice hardened. You're willing to destroy an entire company because of one person's mistake. I'm not destroying anything, Carell said. Your chairwoman did that herself. I just wrote the contract. She signed it. Then she violated it. On camera. What happens next isn't my responsibility. You planned this. I planned for contingencies. There's a difference. Is there? Patricia's voice rose. You walked into that room knowing she'd insult you. You engineered this. I walked into that room knowing exactly who Elspira Vaughn was, Carell said. A woman who's built her career on humiliating people. Who treats anyone she considers beneath her like they're disposable. I didn't engineer anything. I just gave her enough rope. Silence on the other end. She hung herself, Carell said quietly. Patricia exhaled. What do you want? Name it. Money? Board seat? Equity? I don't want anything from Virex. Everyone wants something. Carell smiled. I already have what I want. She hung up. Her phone buzzed immediately. Another text from Elspira. Please. One word. Carell stared at it. She thought about her mother. About sitting in those lobbies. About watching people like Elspira walk past without a glance. About every time someone had underestimated her. Dismissed her. Assumed she was nobody. She deleted the text. Then she opened her laptop and checked the numbers one more time. 1.6 billion. The stock had opened. Down 18%. Trading halted twice already for volatility. The media was calling it a historic collapse. The fastest destruction of a financial empire in modern history. And at the center of it all, a woman in a simple suit drinking terrible coffee in Brooklyn. A woman everyone thought was nobody. A woman who'd just proven that the quietest person in the room can be the most dangerous. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a news alert. Breaking, Elspira Vaughn resigns as chairwoman of Virex Dominion amid discrimination scandal and billion-dollar capital flight. Carell read it twice. Then she closed her laptop, finished her coffee, and walked out into the sunlight. Is this the end for Elspira, or does she have one final move? Comment your prediction, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications because you won't believe what happens in the next chapter. The resignation letter was 3 sentences long. Elspira typed it herself. No assistant. No lawyer. Just her, alone in her corner office, watching the city she'd once conquered turn its back on her. Asterisk effective immediately, I am resigning as chairwoman and CEO of Virex Dominion. I take full responsibility for recent events. The company deserves leadership that better represents its values, asterisk. She read it once. Then hit send. The board would release it to the press within minutes. By end of day, it would be everywhere. Her face. Her name. Her failure. She stood and walked to the window. Below, the streets were packed. Lunch rush. Delivery trucks. Taxis honking. The city didn't care that her life was ending. It just kept moving, indifferent as always. Her phone buzzed. A call from her publicist. She didn't answer. Another buzz. Her lawyer. Ignored. Another. Her ex-husband. She turned the phone off. The office felt huge suddenly. Empty. She'd spent 15 years in this room. Made deals worth billions. Fired people. Hired people. Built an empire from nothing but ambition and rage. And now it was gone. All of it. Because she couldn't swallow her pride for 3 seconds. The door opened. Marcus stood there, pale and exhausted. The statement's out. Press is requesting interviews. Tell them no. Elspira. I said no. Marcus nodded. Started to leave. Then stopped. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Don't be, Elspira said. I did this to myself. He left. She was alone again. Her laptop was still open on the desk. She pulled up the news. The headlines were brutal. Billionaire CEO forced out after racist handshake refusal. Virex Dominion loses $2.4 billion in single day. The fall of Elspira Vaughn, a case study in corporate arrogance. She closed the laptop. Walked to her desk. Opened the bottom drawer. Inside was a photo. Old. Faded. Her at 23, fresh out of business school, standing outside her first office. A tiny room in a terrible building in Queens. She was smiling in the photo. Young. Hungry. Fearless. She barely recognized that person now. Her phone buzzed even though it was off. She checked. One voicemail. From a blocked number. She listened. Carell's voice came through, calm and measured. Chairwoman Vaughn. Or I suppose it's just Elspira now. I wanted you to understand something. This wasn't personal. This was structural. You built a career on crushing people weaker than you. You never considered one thing. This wasn't personal. This was structural. You built a career on crushing people weaker than you. You never considered what would happen if someone used your own tactics against you. That's the problem with bullies. They never see themselves as the villain until it's too late. I hope you learn from this. But I doubt you will. The message ended. Elspira deleted it. Then she picked up the photo from her desk drawer. Stared at that young woman's face. That hunger. That fearlessness. And she realized something. She'd won so many times, for so many years, that she'd forgotten what losing felt like. Forgotten that power wasn't permanent. Forgotten that empires could fall in a single morning. Her assistant knocked. Security is here to escort you out. Elspira didn't answer. She put the photo in her purse. Took one last look at the office. The view. The obsidian table. The throne she'd fought so hard to claim. Then she walked out. The elevator ride down felt longer than it should have. 47 floors. She counted every one. When the doors opened on the lobby, cameras were waiting. Reporters shouting questions. Flashes going off. She pushed through them without a word. Outside, the afternoon sun was blinding. Yellow cabs screamed past. People rushed by on their phones, oblivious. A homeless man sat against the building, same spot as always. He looked up at her. Rough day? He asked. Elspira almost laughed. You could say that. She reached into her purse. Found $100 bill. Handed it to him. He stared at it. You sure? I'm sure. He pocketed it quickly. Thanks. And hey. Whatever you did, it's not the end of the world. Elspira smiled. A real smile this time. Sad but genuine. Feels like it. It never is, he said. Trust me. I've lost everything twice. Still here. She nodded. Then walked away. Her car was parked 3 blocks over. A black sedan. Driver waiting. She climbed in the back. Where to, ma'am? She didn't answer right away. Where did you go when you'd lost everything? When the only identity you'd ever had was stripped away in a single morning? Home, she said finally. The car pulled into traffic. And Elspira Vaughn, former billionaire, former CEO, former Queen of Wall Street, watched the city disappear behind her. Elspira's empire is gone, but is Carell's victory complete? Find out in the next chapter. Hit subscribe and turn on those notifications because the ending will leave you speechless. The news broke at 4:47 p.m. Virex Dominion stock halted after losing $2.4 billion in single-day trading session. Every financial network ran it. Bloomberg, CNBC, Reuters. The talking heads were breathless. Analysts called it unprecedented. A modern case study in how fast power could evaporate in the digital age. In her Brooklyn hotel room, Carell watched it all on mute. The numbers scrolled across the bottom of the screen. 2.4 billion. The exact amount the merger needed. Gone. Vanished into thin air because one woman couldn't control her contempt for 3 seconds. Her phone rang. Darius again. "We did it," he said. He sounded stunned. Like he couldn't believe it had actually worked. "We followed a contract," Carell corrected. Elspira did the rest. The board's in chaos. They're talking about breaking up the company. Selling assets. It's a full collapse. Carell said nothing. "You okay?" Darius asked. "I'm fine." "You don't sound fine." Carell turned off the TV. The silence felt heavy. "I'm just tired." "You should be celebrating. You just took down one of the most powerful women on Wall Street." "I didn't take her down," Carell said. "She took herself down. I just held up a mirror." Darius paused. "You feel bad for her." "I feel nothing for her," Carell said. "But I remember what it's like to be underestimated. To be dismissed. She did that to hundreds of people over the years. Built her empire on their backs. This was inevitable." "Karma," Darius said. "Justice," Carell corrected. She hung up and walked to the window. Brooklyn stretched out below her. Brownstones and bodegas and corner stores. Regular people living regular lives. No glass towers. No billion-dollar deals. Just existence. This was where she belonged. Not in boardrooms with people like Elspira. Not in rooms where cruelty was currency and empathy was weakness. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. *U1. "I hope it was worth it, *. Elspira." Carell stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed back. *It wasn't about winning. It was about accountability, *. The reply came fast. Easy to say when you're not the one who lost everything. Carell's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She could respond. Could explain. Could try to make Elspira understand. But she didn't. Because people like Elspira never understood. They saw the world as a game. Winners and losers. Predators and prey. They never stopped to consider that maybe, just maybe, the people they crushed weren't weak. They were just waiting. Carell deleted the conversation. Then she opened her laptop and pulled up Monroe Atlas's internal files. The real ones. The ones that showed the full scope of what they controlled. $23 billion in leveraged capital. Holdings in 47 companies across 6 continents. A network of power that had taken her 15 years to build. All of it invisible. All of it quiet. All of it designed to do exactly what it did today. She thought about her mother again. About those nights in the lobbies. About the way the rich people never looked down. Never saw the woman scrubbing their floors or the little girl doing homework in the corner. Never saw them coming. Her mother used to say something else too. Something Carell had carried with her ever since. "Baby, you don't need them to see you. You just need them to need you. And by the time they realize it, you'll own everything they thought was theirs." Carell closed the laptop. Walked to the mirror. Looked at herself. Simple clothes. No jewelry. No flash. Just her. The woman who'd just rewritten the rules. The woman who proved that power didn't have to be loud. It just had to be positioned. Outside, the sun was setting. The sky turned orange and pink and gold. Beautiful. Indifferent. The same sky that shone on billionaires and broke people alike. Carell picked up her phone one last time. Opened Twitter. The hashtag was still trending. Hashtag respect is cheaper. Millions of posts. People sharing stories about bosses who belittled them. Companies that discriminated. Systems that crushed anyone who didn't fit. And in the middle of it all, one quote repeated over and over. Asterisk, respect is cheaper than recovery. Carell Banton asterisk. She'd said it to a camera as she walked out of that boardroom. She hadn't known it would become a movement. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the whole system was one insult away from collapsing. Maybe all it took was one person willing to hold up a mirror and force people to see what they'd become. Carell set down her phone. Tomorrow she'd fly back to Boston. Tomorrow she'd return to the quiet work of building power in the shadows. But tonight, for just a moment, she let herself feel it. Not victory. Not revenge. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing that the girl from Roxbury, the daughter of a woman who cleaned rich people's offices, had just proven something the world needed to learn. You don't need to be seen to be powerful. You just need to be ready. The empire fell. The lesson was learned. But is this really the end of the story? Subscribe now and turn on notifications because we have more incredible true stories coming that will blow your mind. Don't miss what's next. 6 months later, Carell stood in a conference room in Seattle. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over Puget Sound. The water was gray and choppy. Rain streaked the glass. It was beautiful in that Pacific Northwest way. Moody. Real. Across from her sat the board of directors for a tech company called Helix Innovations. 7 people. All watching her with a mix of respect and caution. The CEO, a man named Trevor, cleared his throat. Ms. Banton, Monroe Atlas's terms are aggressive. They're fair, Carell corrected. You're asking for 3 board seats and veto power over executive compensation. I'm asking for accountability, Carell said. Your company has a discrimination problem. 4 lawsuits in 2 years. All settled quietly. All swept under the rug. We invest in companies that value people. Not just profit. Trevor shifted in his seat. And if we say no, then we don't invest. Simple as that. One of the board members, a woman named Lisa, spoke up. You've become quite famous since the Virex situation. Every fund manager in the country knows your name now. I didn't do it for fame, Carell said. Then why did you do it? Carell leaned back in her chair. Thought about that question. About Elspira. About the handshake. About everything that followed. Because someone had to, she said finally. Systems protect themselves. Power protects power. Unless someone's willing to use the rules against the people who wrote them, nothing changes. Lisa smiled. And you're that someone. I'm one of many, Carell said. There are people like me everywhere. Quiet. Patient. Waiting for the right moment. We're not trying to burn everything down. We're just trying to make sure the people at the top remember something important. What's that? Trevor asked. Carell stood. Smoothed her blazer. Looked out at the gray water and the gray sky and the city that never pretended to be anything but what it was. That respect isn't optional, she said. It's currency. And the people who forget that always pay the price. She picked up her folder. Walked to the door. Then stopped and turned back. You have 48 hours to decide. After that, the offer expires. She left. Outside, Seattle rain misted against her face. She didn't rush. Just walked slowly to her car, letting the water soak into her hair and clothes. Her phone buzzed. A news alert. Elspira Vaughn announces new consulting firm focused on corporate ethics and inclusion. Carell read it twice. Then she smiled. Not a vindictive smile. Not a triumphant one. Just the quiet recognition that maybe, just maybe, some people could learn. She got in her car and drove back to her hotel. Tomorrow she'd fly back to Boston. Back to Monroe Atlas. Back to the work of building power in the shadows. But tonight, she let herself remember. Remember the girl in the lobby. Remember her mother's hands, cracked from years of cleaning other people's messes. Remember every time someone looked through her like she was invisible. And remember the moment she proved that invisible people see everything. That quiet people hear everything. And that the most dangerous person in any room is the one no one notices until it's too late. She pulled out her phone and typed a message to Darius. *Helix will accept our terms. Give them 47 hours and 59 minutes. Then move to the next target, *. His reply came immediately. You're terrifying, you know that. Carell smiled. I know. She set the phone down and looked out at the rain-soaked city. Somewhere in New York, Elspira Vaughn was rebuilding. Somewhere in Miami, a fund manager was reading contracts more carefully. Somewhere in Dallas, a CEO was thinking twice before humiliating someone in public. And somewhere in Boston, a little girl sat in a lobby doing homework while her mother cleaned offices. Maybe that girl would grow up to be a doctor. Maybe a teacher. Maybe the next person to prove that power doesn't belong to the loudest voice in the room. It belongs to the smartest. The most patient. The one willing to wait for the right moment and then strike with precision. Carell closed her eyes and let the rain sounds fill the car. She'd done what she set out to do. Not destroy Elspira. Not take revenge. Just prove a point. That respect is cheaper than recovery. That dignity isn't negotiable. And that the people you dismiss today might be the ones who dismantle your empire tomorrow. The rain kept falling. The city kept breathing. And Carell Banton, the woman who brought down a billionaire with a handshake, drove into the night, ready for whatever came next. Because the game wasn't over. It had just begun. Thank you for watching this incredible story of power, respect, and justice. If you loved this, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications because we have more amazing true stories coming your way. Stories that will inspire you, shock you, and remind you that respect is the most powerful currency in the world. Don't miss what's coming next. See you in the next story.